welcome to the TNF podcast. Like, comment, share, subscribe, click on that bell for notifications. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, give us a follow and give us a rating. That would be fantastic. Okay, some upcoming shows we've got. On the 1st of June at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we've got John LaMacchia from Candiria and Julie Christmas. On the 8th of June at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Dennis Merrick from Earth Crisis, Freya, and Cinderblock. And working on this date here tentatively on the 22nd of June, got Joe Hardcore from Punishment and This Is Hardcore Festival. And I have a merchandising line, Hell's Heart Merch Co. Go on over to hellsheartco.bigcartel.com and use the code 20 for 20% off of your entire order. They're fine Bella Canvas, next level tri-blend t-shirts. If you like movies, if you like music, I think you'll really like them. Check it out. Would love that. So my next guest today, he is a really talented actor. He's got so many accolades to his name. He has appeared in over 100 stage productions. He was the winner of an Obie Award in 2006 for his portrayal of Othello in a production called The Seven. He starred as Dick Gregory in 2018 in a play called Turn Me Loose. This man has been all over the world. He's done so many amazing things. He's currently in post-production for an upcoming short film, and you may know him as the character Ibrahim on the SAG award-winning FX series The Bear. Ladies and gentlemen, Edwin Lee Gibson.
Long known as a family joint, the purveyor of sloppy but tasty Italian beef sandwiches, the word we would have used it to describe the beef before this review was reliable. The word I would choose now after my most recent meal is at the well-loved, if not shabby establishment, is elevated or elegant. The menu is slightly updated.
20 minutes to open.
Thank you so much for being here, Edwin.
Oh, thanks. Wow, that's memories there. It's not
That
that
was
long
from
ago.
that was from the first season, right?
Yeah, that was episode 7 of season 1. That was our one take, our oneer as we call it, without any cuts. Yeah, that's
Those are
fun.
really hard to do.
Yeah, I think so. I come from the theater, so yeah, I'm used to that. But the way that was orchestrated was really, really great to see. Really great to be a part of as well.
And with your theater background, you started performing at age 16. And I'm always curious as an actor myself how you got into performing, what motivated you to take to the stage.
Well, before I do that, I want your intro. You said that the Opie was for playing Othello. It was actually playing Oedipus,
Oedipus, I'm sorry.
Oedipus in the Seven.
Okay.
Yeah. But my mom was classically trained in voice. She's from a small town in East Texas called Longview, and I grew up in Houston. She became a social worker, teacher. Um, my dad was a garbage man. I started singing with her when I was about 5 years old. It's my first recollection of being in front of an audience. Um, Thought I would be a singer. I was one of the top choral singers in Texas at the time. Auditioned for the National All Boys Choir, made it, but I wasn't 12 yet, so they wouldn't take me. So I told my mom I was done with singing, and she was mortified. And Found acting later that summer because that's where the girls were. Uh, and started taking it seriously when I was about 14. And yeah, started working professionally. I got my first paycheck when I was 16, and have been doing it since then.
What was your first performance?
I played my first paying job. Yeah, I played Tin Man in The Wiz. In the 80s, they did this thing where they would have kids do jobs during the summers. It was called CETA. It was one of the things that Ronald Reagan could be touted for. And so my job with a lot of other young people, we got paid to work 9 to 4 Monday through Friday, and we rehearsed and performed work. So it was like really all the kids in Houston wanted these jobs, but only those that were kind of the top, I guess you would say, at that time, were the ones that got employed. Other kids were like cleaning up in parks and lifeguards and things like that. But it was a government seat-up program, is what it was called. And so that's where I began, and I was the only principal role that was not double cast. And I was technically the youngest because I was 16. Everyone else was like 17, 18.
That's incredible. Yeah, I think that it's really awesome to kind of harness people's creative talents at such a young age. I think that's amazing when people can kind of find their niche and something they really enjoy doing and then, kind of go as far as they can with it. And so you went to school after that, you trained.
No, I've never trained as an actor.
No.
Uh, no, no. I think that that's one of the things that I appear this scholarly trained actor, but I've never had a formal acting class outside of high school. Ross Shaw Sterling High School, South Park, Houston. Uh, Mr. Faulkner was my drama teacher, so I had a year and a half of that, but I knew it was what I was going to do, and so I got into the preeminent theater company in Houston at the time, which was the Ensemble Theater. And but I studied mathematics in college because my mother thought she was going to be deterring me from acting because she was so afraid. So she was like, study something else. And what she didn't realize is that mathematics actually helped me uh, codify what I was doing as an artist. I always say that there's a reason that when at every university you go to, you see the College of Arts and Sciences together.
What about mathematics you think enhances somebody's performance as an actor or an actress?
Well, I don't know. I think it just kind of creates this mode of thinking. Um, People suppose that what we do as artists is purely uh, artistic, and that's all there is. But it's analytical. Anyone that's an artist, musician, knows that there's intense analysis associated with scales and with and in the sense of act in terms of acting, um, rhythm. I'm also a stutterer, so understanding kind of that meter of voice, uh, and that my stutter is because I process thought at 5 times the normal rate, and then um, all that, and that stuttering is a dysfunction of your speech pattern. All that stuff led me back to music. So what she gave me inadvertently was this other way of hearing what I was doing, if that makes sense. So I began to hear things as much as music as anything else. So I came back full circle to that.
I could definitely see the correlation between music and math. One of my friends and I were composing some music for a short film that we did, and we came to the conclusion that we were like, music is just math. Like
Mm.
we thought about it because when you think about the beats and the tempo and like you said, the rhythm, it all comes down to knowing, 4/4 or all these different scales, 3/16 and
Mm.
all these other things. So it completely makes sense. And now I can definitely see the correlation with like rhythm and acting because it's movement based. There's the delivery of the lines. It all depends on certain beats and certain tempos and whatnot. So that
Yeah.
totally makes sense. That definitely changes my kind of whole outlook on that. Definitely.
Yeah, and if you think about even geometry, there's theorems and proofs. And the theorems are, I used to always say that the theorems are the text, and the proofs are the choices that I make. It may work, it may not work. So I'm trying all these different ways of making something work, of hearing things, of listening to the characters, and supposing what their energy is. And so, yeah, so that all began to make sense to me in a really, really big way, and made me run even more towards art and what I was doing.
What's your process for creating a character? Are you one of those guys like Robert De Niro who writes pages of backstory, or do you just kind of live in the moment and, feel the essence of the character and just kind of go from there?
Oh, yeah, I don't write down a lot. I was once accused by one actor in New York of just being so naturally gifted because my scripts were always clean. And my scripts were always clean because I don't want to get married to any choices. Again, music. Uh, oh, um, so no, I tend to just want to listen. The story will tell you what you need to do and what's um what's necessary, rather than just trying to do something. I don't want to impose on the character any more than what the character asks for, what the story asks for.
Absolutely. Now, with the bear, how did you land that opportunity?
I always say that you never know who's watching. I was doing a play called Beyond Caring in Chicago in 2017. After that, the famed theater auteur Peter Brook in the UK uh, asked me to come and join this theater company in Paris. So I moved to Paris. I worked there for 2 years around the world in this little play that he had created, the Mahabharata, um, based on the Mahabharata.
Very
And
familiar.
yeah, yeah. Uh, I get a call. I come back to the States. I play Dick Gregory in a solo play. I go to Tucson, Arizona, which is like my happy place. And then the bear comes along. And when I read for it, I couldn't find a reader. I'm really getting to a point, I promise. Uh, and so I sent the monologue. I sent the audition in as a monologue. Turns out Christopher Storer, the creator of the show, had seen me in the play in 2017, Beyond Caring. And he said, I saw you in this play, and I was like, I want to work with this guy. And so again, you never know who's watching. You do your work the way you do your work. And so that really came because breakdowns go out to everyone. But then when he saw me, he was like, that's the guy I saw in this play, and I want to work with him. And that's really kind of how it happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tends to be pretty typical of a lot of stage actors. Somebody will see a performance of theirs and then they end up going and being a part of the screen productions as a result of that. What
Yeah.
you were saying about the Mahabharata, though, I'm actually quite familiar with it as a practitioner of the Hare Krishna faith. This is the Bhagavad Gita, which is a
Ah.
chapter in the Mahabharata. So, what was that about?
The Mahabharata, well, okay, back in the 80s, Peter Brook created this piece based on Mahabharata, which is, the second longest Sanskrit. Um, and he created this 8-hour piece that was done at the Brooklyn Academy of Art, or Brooklyn Academy of Music. And then in the 90s, he created it differently. On a soundstage, he created this thing he called Battlefield, which is based on the Mahabharata. Then what I understand is that he kept whittling it down because in the 80s in New York, it was an 8-hour play. You had to see it over 2 days. So fast forward to what he did uh, in like 2013, 14, I think, was he created it as a smaller piece and a 70-minute piece called Battlefield. And then they were on tour of the U.S. when they saw me in the same play. And the writer of this play came from the UK, David Schwimmer, who you know from Friends. He produced it, and then they were there. They saw me in the play, and his collaborator, Maria Lynn Etienne, saw me, told him about me. The next day, I get an email. I never gave her my email. I just said hello to her, and I made a tape, and she said Peter wants to meet you. So I went to meet him in Minneapolis, and he takes your hand. And he says, "Will you have lunch with me?" And he asked me to just come and to join his theater company. So I went to London, the National Theatre Studio. We worked on some things, and then moved to Paris and began to tour with him. But it's great. It was a piece that was already created, and it was just like just when you think you know so much as an actor, and you've been in the business for decades, someone like him teaches you what you don't know, and
Yeah,
you're very happy for it.
absolutely. We're always constantly learning in our trades and our crafts. I think
Mm.
that's wonderful. I'd definitely like to see a production of that sometime. It really kind of piqued my curiosity.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you feel?
Unfortunately, sorry, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, Peter passed away about 3 years ago. He was like 98 when he passed away.
Hmm.
Still just a brilliant mind, but sorry.
No, I was just going to say, do you feel that you have more of an affinity towards stage or screen acting?
Uh, I've been a theater actor since 1981, um, and so 104 plays later, it's what I do. It's what I've come from. I I dabbled in it. I mean, there was a time where theater actors were like, "I'm a theater actor. I'm not a TV actor. I don't do that." Um, um, but I've grown into understanding how my my muscle works differently, and now I think I'm given more to um, screen work, large screen, small screen. To do theater now, the role has to absolutely scare me because it calls for so much time.
Mm.
And I get those every now and then where something scares me. But I think now, um, as an artist, it's just always been the thing is to just keep learning more about myself and learning more about art and how I can give to art and support it. So I don't know. Um, I think if I were to say one or the other, you know, the universe might say, "Oh, really? Well, let me take this." Yeah,
Might throw you a curveball, definitely.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
With the bear, which I'm loving, by the way, I think it's
Oh,
a
good.
fantastic show. I was talking to you a little bit backstage about how I had done some work in the restaurant industry, and I feel like the characters' performances and the writing on there perfectly encapsulates that high anxiety, high tension aspect of being in the back house of a kitchen. I would like Sydney. I would wake up in the middle of the night and have nightmares about incoming tickets and dishes that we had to prepare and all this other sorts of stuff. And so I was like, yep, been there, feel that. So with the whole pre-production aspect of that, did you have to train at a restaurant? And I understand from another podcast that when you guys are cutting up the preparations, that those are actually your hands, which to me seems like a big liability. But what was the process like of training for those roles?
Well, I think initially Jeremy and Io went to train. Uh, Jeremy, I know for a while, he really, really worked, and you know, he worked really hard at it. Um, but we had the benefit of having Matty Matheson, who plays Neil Fack. He's a famous chef, and people don't know that.
Oh wow.
So he was a technical advisor and wanted to put him in the show, and he was like, "Well, I don't want to cook." So this character came out of that, but it's funny, like he's the only one that's like an actual chef. Um, but he would teach, he would show us a lot of things, and yeah, we don't use any hand doubles. Um, so we learn a, a bit about how to handle things in pre-production, and then as we go on, and you get more comfortable as you're doing something. Um, I do things on the show that I definitely don't do at home. Uh, I'm not very versed in the kitchen outside of being an actor. Uh, but yeah, it was really great. And now, and Christopher's sister, Coco, um, Courtney Storer, she's a chef as well. And we're at Mr. Beef, and Chris Zucchero, who was a friend of Christopher Storer since they were kids, whose dad started Mr. Beef. You know, he's got some insight, and so we've got all these different um uh, people that are teaching us different things. But yeah, we did. I guess so. I guess there's been some degree of learning on the job, and as the seasons go on, as the episodes go on, what's expected, the the degree of expertise that our character is expected to have has grown.
And I understand when you guys shoot, it's actually in these really cramped and confined spaces. So that oneer must have been really hard to do.
Yeah, we shot that. We we shot a lot of season one in Mr. Beef, so there was that thing about the confines, because it had to look a certain way. I think I was telling you that had we not gotten the restaurant industry right, the show wouldn't have lasted, and people in the industry would know, oh, that space is so wide. So in something like the oneer that we did. We didn't change the confines of the space, and the camera had to be able to move through all the space as well. And that's kind of a kudos testament to Christopher, and Joanna Kahlo, who was the co-showrunner, um, to understanding what's gonna not just read real, but be real. So yeah, so it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
I commend them because you feel totally immersed in that. You just feel
Uh-huh.
like you're right there in the whole claustrophobia of that. I actually worked uh in a kitchen in Long Beach at a restaurant, and it was like a cracker box in there. You could barely move or do anything, and then that just increases to the chaos and anxiety, and especially when you don't have any of the preparations made, it's like a nightmare. It's insane.
Yeah, I don't know how you all do it. Oh, I've never waited tables. Well, I waited tables. I was a waiter for like maybe 4 or 5 days in Houston, and then one day some guy snapped his finger at me and said, "6 iced teas," and I don't know how all 6 of them fell on him. You know, all 6 of them fell on him when I came back. Oops. I don't know how that
who
happened.
who did
But
that? Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah. And that was the extent of my restaurant work. I was
Oh
like,
wow.
no, I'm not doing this
Yeah.
because
I don't
I'll
blame
choke
you.
somebody. Yeah, yeah. I was like, I think I might have been like 22 at the time.
Yeah, I would have been stepping after that too.
Mm,
That's crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
there's some
yeah,
really disrespectful types in there. I used to work at a country club for a while. Unmasked, most of the people were really cool, but then every so often you'd get these types that would do that one too, and I'm like, nah, we're not
Yeah,
doing
man.
that.
Mm-mm. Um, so I had to find other ways of supplementing, kind of how I went through the world without doing that. Because the other thing is that there's this, I would hear these stories about how actors that were bartenders were turned into bartenders who acted, and that scared me so much
Yeah,
that I never wanted to have that type of thing happen.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
totally understandable. There's all
Yeah.
types of people like that in LA that just get stuck into whatever it is that their day job is and barely get any time to pursue their career and what they're truly passionate about.
New York as well, and I lived there for 15 years, and I saw it, and it was heartbreaking and scary. Scary that something more tangible, um, um, something more lucrative was there, and that's not what I wanted.
Mm.
Yeah,
A lot of really talented people just miss the ship on that sometimes because they get stuck in those roles. It's unfortunate. I feel that.
yeah. If I'm gonna go down in flames, I'm gonna go down doing what I chose to do. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely. Now, with the character of Ibrahim,
Me
really enjoying him, and he's
too.
kind of a mysterious guy. There's a little bit under the surface. What do you think about him makes him so mysterious?
Uh, Christopher defined him, and one of the things that drew me to the audition was he's defined as a mystery who's lived 1,000 lives. And so many things come back to me, or so many things for me go back to music. I'm a huge Prince head. I say if anyone's influenced me the most, it's Prince. I say the first theater I saw was August 26, 1976, Eighth Row Center, Parliament Funkadelic, the Mothership Connection concert. I was 11 years old, and the Mothership came down, and they all came. That was theater, and that was lights, and that was sound. It was like my first introduction to theater. But when I saw uh, A Memory Who's Lived 1,000 Lives, I thought about Carlos Santana and the story when he was a kid, and supposedly someone told him, "You got to make the guitar sound like it's crying." And if you hear his music, it sounds like the guitar is crying. And so I leaned into that quiet aspect or that mysterious aspect of Ibrahim. Where he comes from, I think also is that thing because we don't know. I mean, he's from East Africa, and if you think about the trek, whether by land or by sea, during the 90s, when there was so much unrest in that region, we talk about our government's involvement in that. But how he actually got here to the states, that trek, and then to get to the middle of the country, Chicago. There's something that's mysterious, even in when I see. I didn't do any research because I don't really research characters. I just think about things. When I think about that, him being a mystery that lives 1,000 lives made total sense to me, and so I really leaned into that. Um, and I think he's a person that you don't see kind of going off the rails in the kitchen, and there's a reason for that. What he's seen, what he's had to traverse. Uh, I think all those things are immediate aspects of him that give me something to do without researching. If I'm writing stuff down and researching, I might be passing up the character with my research. I'm not one of those actors. So,
I really got a good laugh whenever there was the scene when they did the bachelor party, and then he comes to the back of the house and there's I think it was a bra that was on there, and he said, "This is
Yeah.
very disrespectful."
Yes, yes. No, no, that was hilarious. I still think about that. That was fun. Because I remember first time I lifted it up. Of Jeremy looks at it, and I didn't say the line immediately. And then I said, I say the line, and he couldn't hold it. He couldn't hold it. Oh, well, I mean, he's a, I think Ibrahim's a very, very funny guy. But the seriousness of it is why it's so funny. It's like this cat's really, really intense about everything, and everything matters to him. Um, so yes, this is very disrespectful. I can't cook here. Doesn't matter if I'm making Italian beef. I just can't cook in this. I can't work in this situation. Right.
Right. It was very deadpan. I loved the
Yes.
delivery of it. It was
Oh, thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, with all of your theatrical productions, you've done over 100, which to me is incredibly impressive.
Mm.
Is there any that you felt more connected to that you really resonated with?
Probably, but if I were to say, then the other characters would approach me in the middle of the night and ask me, and ask me why I didn't choose them. No, I see. Yeah, there've been so many for different reasons. Um, Playing Oedipus in the Seven was really interesting because in the Seven Against Thebes, Oedipus is already dead, but the writer brings him back as this figure that makes people that pits his sons against each other. There's just something about the gravitas of being able to play a role like that. I was writing solo. I was writing single character solo work that I was doing in New York as well. Um, but I can't say that there's one character. I wish I could say, maybe if I had fewer credits, I could say there's one character. But there's so many that have shown me what I'm capable of, and also shown me where I'm fallible. Which goes back to mathematics, right? You always see where you're fallible. It's where it's like art. It's like we all miss the mark, and so the work will show you both where you're fallible and also why you chosen this route. So yeah, I don't know that there's. Dick Gregory was a great, great role to play. 9 months after he passed away, and it was the first show I did back in the States, coming back from France, and so being able to play him as someone that I've loved since I was a kid. Uh, I turned down 6 episodes and a possible role on another show that's still on right now. Um, it was a choice out of that and playing uh, Baba Gregory, and so I chose to go and play this man that I have such reverence for. So yeah, so there's all these different things, these different characters that, in the moment, they mean the most to me. I don't let go of them after it's done, but I don't hold on to them either. I mean, your practice, that's not allowed. You have to keep moving on. I studied Zen Buddhism for about 6 years in New York. So yeah, so I know. Yeah, so I tend to thank the moment and the experience and go on.
I can tell you though that it is hard to definitely detach from some of those where I played some roles and I almost felt like I became the character by the
Mm-hmm.
end of it. And it was really
Mm-hmm.
hard for me to shake some of those things. I've
Uh,
been put through the gamut of emotions. And remember when I had to do an audition and had to just break down and cry and then go back and do a play later in the day. And so it was very difficult. And so what are some you mentioned you were a practitioner of Buddhism. what are some sort of methods you feel that you can decompress and unwind from maybe the traumatic undertaking of being a character?
Well, really fine actor Alfred Woodard, she said something many, many years ago that an actor should never take themselves someplace that they can't get back from. We don't get paid enough for that. And so I think I'd say I talk about my characters in the third person. None of the characters are real. They're actually symbolic of the writer's commentary on the time, life, lifestyles, relations. Um, and so I think seeing them from 35,000 feet allows me to speak of them in the third person so that I can give them the space they need to become what they need to be rather than me imposing on them and saying it's me because they're not me. If what I need and what the character needs, if what the character needs and what I'd like the character to have meet, that's great. But I've always had this rule that once my desires begin to supersede what the character needs or supersede the story, then I need to take another look at what I'm doing. In the case of Ibrahim, he's just so beautiful, but I have to always keep in mind, or I have to always wonder how much how much volatility there is back there. You know, what's he angry
Yeah.
about? You know, he's somebody that we haven't really seen the backstory and kind of his thing. Um, um, I know it's there, but I don't take my time getting. I want to take my time to get to it. So,
Sure.
excuse me. So I don't. I don't tend to. I think if I made the characters about myself, then I'd have a different relationship, and it'd be much more difficult to get rid of it. When the show's over, like in the theater, curtain comes down, curtain call's done. Come back to the my dressing room, and pour myself a shot of whiskey, and say thanks, and then I light a cigar, and I'm out.
And then you're
uh,
done.
well, right. But on the way home, I'm always thinking about kind of what I felt, not what I know, and whatever worked, I want to get that out of me as soon as possible. It's like I got another show the next night. Every night is different.
Hmm.
Um, a rule for me is that every night is the first time the characters have ever said these words. In that
Yes.
way, I'm not doing performance. I'm actually finding out in real time with the audience who he is and what's happening each night. If that makes sense. And I don't think that would have happened if I'd studied. Um, I learned and I studied from a lot of really fine actors back in Houston,
Hmm.
in New York, and then just kind of understanding what that what my job is. And I feel like my job is conduit between the subject and the discourse for the audience.
Sure.
I'm just
Sure.
conduit. Yeah, the shit ain't about me.
And with I know Lee Strasberg, the acting teacher, he
Mm,
came under fire because he would tell people to tap into real life experiences that they had in order to craft the character. Now, I'm an alumnus of Stella Adler, and Stella Adler said once those events happen in your life, they're gone, they're dead. You should be living in the present, and the character should not be any sort of manifestation of your real life experiences. You have to give birth to that. You have to breathe life to that, and it should be completely independent of your life. So that's really great advice. I don't drink, so I couldn't just take a shot of whiskey and smoke a cigar and be done with it. But I may try to go to the Eastern spirituality and maybe meditate and do some breath work and get it out. But
Yeah, I think I love them both. I love them both, and I learned a lot because even though I didn't study, I read about Stella Adler, and I read about Lee Strasberg and Sanford Meisner, um, and understanding that any technique begins as a theorem and a proof, right? And I think there's something about um, there's something about well, we can't get past the fact that some aspect of me might make itself into a character, but only as much as the character needs, which I think in that statement blends both of their um, um, both of their ideals, and they came out of the same school, and they were both they understood. I don't feel like I have to have had the experiences of the character. I just have to be able to understand what that is, and I came up, really, really around a lot of cats who, we were, you know, hooligans. You can go back in time and see a lot of actors, or they say, hooligans. Peter O'Toole was a big toter. A lot of the cats, and so, but you go on stage and you do your work, and that shouldn't affect your work. Um, so I understand why those things and why those different schools of thoughts are apart, and I understand how they mesh. And I also understand that doing some breath work, you know, whatever your thing afterwards is your thing afterwards. Because I do the same thing.
sure.
I take the long way home after a show. I don't
You know,
take the Yeah, I don't take the short way home. I take the most circuitous route home, just so I can let go of things while I'm processing it, so I have space for it the next day.
whenever Dustin Hoffman did the Marathon Man, he stayed up for days on end in order to make it look like he was tired and exhausted. He lived in the full method. And then Laurence Olivier was like, "What are you doing, man?" He's like, "I just pretend." So you
Yeah,
seem you kind of come from like the latter where it's you don't necessarily go through all the hoops of trying to live as accurately as the character's experiences.
yeah. I think Sir Laurence Olivier's. I some I think his quote might have been, "Try acting."
Right.
I think it might be something like that. But
Yeah.
but more power to uh, Dustin Hoffman. I mean, I always say there's no there's no one mode of transport, of getting there.
Hmm.
Wherever there is, there's no one mode of transport. It's when you begin to say it's only this or it's only that. So whatever you need, or whatever works for you. I just hope people don't harm themselves, um, in the pursuit of that. And sometimes, if all of that is going on, if I'm researching, then I end up playing the research. I'm not playing the character. I'm not telling the story.
Sure.
Um, but I think there are some times where you have to submerge yourself uh, a bit, but I haven't had to do that. Everything I need is in the script, whether it's a bad piece or a good piece. I feel like everything the actor needs is in the script. So I don't have to look for anything else. I just have to, my job is to figure out this puzzle that the writer has created.
That's a
Yeah.
good way of putting it, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, you have delved into screenwriting, you have written a few pilots, and you actually have a project that's in post-production. Can you talk
Mm.
about that a little bit?
Yes. A pink and red dress made of satin, covered in flowers, mostly roses. But that's the title. Uh, 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 it wasn't the one I thought I would lead with, but okay. The universe had other plans. Um, and yeah, I started writing. I'm really nebulous. My mother would call it nosy. I don't like not knowing how to do anything. I became a writer in the theater because I wanted to learn how to do that. I loved August Wilson so much. I loved Ray Bradbury. I loved Eugene O'Neill. Lorraine Hansberry. And then the only art degree I got was um, writing for the screen. I got my MFA in writing for the screen, and in 2016. And since then, well, I've been writing like 5 original pilots, 3 films, and 2 shorts since 2016. And Pink and Red Dress takes place in a border town. It's about a young woman who has to deal with the uncertainty of love, the and the power that a dress holds to her family's past. And I have such an affinity for women that I want to learn how to write for them better. And so I started writing this piece uh, separately from each other, and these 2 things sounded better in Spanish than they did in English. So I tried my turn at writing in Spanish, and uh, so I wrote this piece, and it all started coming together in different ways in like 2021. And yeah, I went and shot a 12-page version of it in Tucson, Arizona in December. And Christopher Storer, our showrunner on The Bear, we had lunch one day, and he was like, "Don't try to shoot your whole thing. Make a short version of it because you're gonna use all your money." I wrote a short version and used all my money anyway. Uh, so I was glad we got another season because I used I shot on a 35 millimeter, and it's just a really, I think, a really beautiful story about a young woman who works. She's a second generation lounge singer, and her mother's in a sanatorium, and they both wear this beautiful dress, and it's really about the fabric of women, that um, in my admiration for them. So this young woman she's she's loved by the club owner. She's loved by the waiter. She's loved by the sheriff of the town. And had a great time in Tucson making this with some friends. And yeah, it's in post production right now. I'll send you the teaser when we're done, and you can see
Okay,
it.
excellent.
But yeah, it's what I hope will be the precursor to an anthology series that I call Texas Public Radio, which are these different stories of things that take place at the border between Texas and Mexico border. So Pink and Red Dress is kind of that first installment of that. But right now it's a 12-minute short piece. I'll get the edit tomorrow. I had to let go of it. That was tough. That was tough.
You didn't get final cut.
Well. I'm a control freak that wants to let go of the control. I am a control freak, but I want to let go of it. So I found an editor, and I was like, do your thing. I'll see what you have tomorrow, and we can talk about it. But the uh, the 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 teaser, I did put together, and it's just been a great journey as a writer. I directed it as well, and I got a high from doing that I've never gotten as an actor. I didn't think anything could supersede that. And I was like, wow, okay, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to stop acting, but this was, directing something and directing something that you wrote was really great. People know that I write. I was one of 10 writers chosen to the Sony Pictures television writing program in 2023, and people are very supportive. But you have to sometimes go and make things yourself to show people, because everyone can really love you, but everyone's busy, right? And
Yeah,
so I went and made something to show that I can, if I say what I do, let me show what I do.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I definitely felt a strong sense of connection with directing as well. I got to direct a music video last year and
Mm.
had a really great time doing it. Personally, myself, I feel more of a connection to directors than I do actors. And, I always have to ask people that are in the performance field are, what are who are some actors and directors that really inspired you? You mentioned August Wilson, Lorraine Hansberry, Ray Bradbury, and also Eugene O'Neill. Fans of all of those. So, who do you feel like are some actors, directors, playwrights that really inspire you, and films and plays that really kind of resonate with you?
Uh, Peter Brook, the original Lord of the Flies. That's Peter Brook.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's Peter Brook.
Okay.
Um, but I think I've mentioned, you'll probably catch me talking a lot more about musicians than you will actors. Uh,
Okay.
from the moment I heard Prince, and understood that he was only 7 years older than I was at the time, but he was, yeah, when it first happened, he was only 7 years older than I was. I was like, okay, that makes him more tangible to me, being an artist. Um, um, James Earl Jones, because he was a stutterer as well. Um, yeah, a lot of people don't know that he's a
I
stutterer.
didn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, there's, you know, um, there are many actors that people never heard of that were that inspired me a lot more than people that you have heard of. You know, I could run through the gambit of, like, the Denzels and uh, Cicely Tyson. But then I could also talking about uh, Gordon Parks, who was a photographer turned film director, and he's the reason that the Shaft movies look the way that they look, because he directed those. Um, um, so I draw my inspiration from um, places of fearlessness rather than from genres or places that are familiar to me. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I meant to comment on the Prince uh, appreciation too. I'm a big fan of Purple Rain. I think Prince was talented all across the board. I especially like the part in there whenever he's on the motorcycle and he revs it up and Apollonia tries to get on there and he like goes away
Right.
a little bit. It reminded me of my parents because my dad actually
Exactly.
used to do that to my mom in the
Yeah.
car. She would start to
Yeah.
get in the car and then he would drive away. And so that
Yeah.
really kind of I felt it felt familiar to me.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Oh, I mean, it was like, I mean, if you think, and maybe some of the folks, you and some of the folks that listen to your podcast will kind of get it. His first album, For You, the first track is called For You, and the only lyrics are at the beginning, and he says, and these are the first lyrics of the first album when he's like 17, 18 years old. And he says, all of this and more is for you, with love, sincerity, and deepest care. My life with you I share. That's exactly what he did.
Mm.
And to be 17, 18 years old and to say that and to have that clarity of thought, um, I was like, okay, I know what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to do that, whatever that is. And I was only in ninth grade when I heard it. It was like 14. So, um, yeah, when you think about that, that's an artist statement, if there ever was one. And so that began my trek as an artist and who I've always been chasing. You know, I've done
Yeah.
104 productions because he did 35 studio albums. You know,
Yeah.
I was working on Fargo, season 4 of the series, and Chris Rock and I were talking, and we were just both like, we're not over him being gone. And we just talked about whenever we get tired, you know, we say, you know, Prince is awake. so, so, you know, so let me get on, so let me get on top of things. Yeah.
I think he was otherworldly. I don't think he was of this planet.
No, no, no. So I think like my mom, my dad, who, you know, I, I wear blue, plain blue pants in rehearsals. When I'm doing a play, I wear these plain blue pants when I go to shoot on set because my dad was a garbage man and he wore these plain blue pants to go bump garbage. And I always say I don't do what my dad did, but I do what I do the way he did what he did. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Wow. And to speak of Fargo and Chris Rock. Chris Rock is actually a huge inspiration to me as a performer. I
Mm,
used to watch his stand-up specials and just roar with laughter. I think he's really great at his craft. And you have been doing a lot of series on FX. You did Unprisoned with Kerry Washington and Delroy Lindo.
yeah.
What's kind of your experiences with some of those other productions?
Just wonderful. You know, Kerry Washington and I saw each other at one of these awards things earlier this year at the SAG Awards in February, and she remembered who I was. I mean, she and Delroy had to sign off on me coming on the show, and I still say the character's name, uh, Delroy Lindo's character's name ended up being Edwin, and I really think it's because when they cast me, because it was Eddie at first, then they changed it to Edwin. I was like, nobody told me, but I'm sticking to that. They changed that because of me. Oh, Delroy Lindo is just like an amazing, amazing cat. He doesn't give up very much. He's got this stoic kind of thing, but I can see his softness right through there. But you got to earn it. And so when I came back on the show, he gave me a hug. He said, "Oh man, great to have you back, man. We love having you here." And so it's great. So I had nothing but great time with them and um, uh, Yvette Lee Bowser, who created Living Single. She was the show. She was showrunner, executive producer rather, and Tracy McMillan created it. So yeah, that was a really really great time. I just hate that I was so busy back on the bed that I didn't get to come back and do more of Unprisoned.
Excellent. Now, The Bear is actually slated for a fourth season, and that's coming back on June 25th. What can you tell
Yes,
us about that?
so much I could tell. I could tell,
Well, I mean,
but
not without giving too much away. What can we
no.
expect?
Oh no. It's a uh there's a there's growth and there's transition that's going on. Um, this season, season 3 was really about kind of a constant re revisiting whatever is happening in one's head, you know, what Carmi was going through. But I think season 4 is now you'll see kind of the smoke clearing, and really great um, guest stars. Just when you think we've had what we could do, we've got more. But I think you're going to see a lot of growth and a lot of there's going to be a lot of change. I think this this season, and but the team, we actually get back to the team a bit more, and I think people will be really. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It's a fair question, but it's not a fair question because I have to like hold on and not say.
Sure, of course.
But no, but I'm so excited. I went and watched on days that I'm not called, and some of the stuff that I saw, just cinematically. Yeah, yeah. If you got sketches, slip them on. Otherwise, tie up your laces.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And aside from the film and the show, what else is next in the pipeline for you?
Um. I guess I can talk about. I did this great show called Fallout. It's based on the video game Fallout.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Walton Goggins. Is in it. They their season two. They invited me to come and play in season two of that show. So I don't know when it's coming out, but I had a great time working with them. And Walton and I had a scene, together, just the two of us, and that was really dope. Um, that I'm writing uh, and I'm spec writing other shows that I haven't been asked to do, but I'm just kind of working on how effective I can be given a timeline. So I'll pick a show and I'll say, okay, you got 2 weeks to write this show, and I'll go. So I'm working on that. I'm working on story two of A Pink and Red Dress. Um, and yeah, and trying to get this right hip in order. Geez, all the years of playing sport, got this hip, so it's really just getting, just concentrating on my health and my art. But there's nothing else so glamorous that's happening except Fallout Season 2. Yeah, so hopefully people will check that out and enjoy it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I'm familiar with the video game. I wasn't sure if that was connected to the game or not, but
it
yeah, now
is.
that I know.
It
Okay.
it is. It is. Oh, they had waited, from what I understand, they waited years to find someone who could actually do a series based on the game. So the folks that created the game were waiting on that. Um, and and I think if you see season one, if you haven't seen it, go watch season one.
Okay.
Yeah, you won't move. And I'm not somebody that like watches very much stuff. I don't watch a lot of movies at all.
Oh
I'm
wow.
I'm an actor that has not seen very much of anything.
Okay.
I mean, I'd rather be smoking cigars someplace. Uh,
I know a few actors that do that though, that in order to kind of stay detached and not have, previous performances inform maybe what they're doing, they try to take a different approach to it. So
yeah.
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Othello earlier, and
You
I
played
never, s-
Iago in that. I meant that's where I got the two of them mixed up.
I actually played both characters
Oh, you did?
in separate productions, but I never
Okay.
saw a production of Othello because I wanted to play the role. So whenever it was being done, I would never watch it, and I didn't see a production of Othello for about 25 years until after I played Othello. Then I went and saw
Wow.
a production of it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, for exactly that reason.
I did a production of Mice and Men, and I played George in that. And I'd seen the movie with Gary Sinise and John Malkovich, but I hadn't seen it in years. And the director was like, "Have you seen the movie?" And I said, "Yeah, a long time ago." He's like, "Don't rewatch it again." And I was like, all right."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a good kind of rule of thumb, so that you're not like drawing somebody else's persona into your own performance.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, it it should be you, and eventually things make their way into the ether. But my thing has always been, um, I'm just it's like we'll be on set and like Lionel Boyce, who plays Marcus on our show, he's just a cinephile. He sees everything, and he and Io, they're talking about everything. They've seen
Oh
everything,
wow,
and they've seen stuff from a period where I should have been watching this stuff, and they've seen it. I haven't
they've
seen
seen it,
it at
yeah.
all, and they're like, "What? You haven't seen this?" No, I haven't seen it at all. Yeah.
I'd love to have him on the show and just chop shop about films sometimes, because
Oh.
I have like a film encyclopedia in my brain, and it like I I almost feel like it's like Rain Man. I don't know
Mm.
if you've seen Rain Man, but like
Yeah.
he like if you start talking about films with me, I'll just boom 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 keep going. So I'd love to have them uh talk about films sometime. That'd be
That would
fantastic.
that'd be hilarious. I want to be a fly on the wall for that. It was like, I mean, I actually sent Lionel a pink and red dress in 2023, a version that I wrote, and and we're like all family there, on the show. We really are, and he sent me back. He was like, I don't get it, and I was like, okay. Then after we did this whole thing, it was like just like a couple years later, I sent him the teaser. And he's like, "Oh, this is the one you had a couple years ago." I said, "Yeah, it's the one that you didn't get." And I'm so happy that you said that because that helped a lot because he's seen so much,
Sure.
yeah. So yeah, so uh, um, I'll see what I can do.
That would be
I'll see
excellent.
what I
That
can
would
do.
be outstanding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I'd love to pick people's brains on films that they appreciate. And is there any, aside from the cast that you work with, is there any acting or talent, maybe directors that are up and coming that you want to shout out or that you feel deserve some recognition?
Um, I met Ramel. I forget Ramel's last name. He just did Nickel Boys. Uh, Really exciting director. Um, but no one that I know of that I would shout out. Uh, well, I did a movie with that Daryl Britt Gibson wrote called "She Taught Love," and that's on Hulu as well. I always like to shout out Daryl. He's a really really fine actor. Probably seen him in The Wire when he was younger. Um, uh, um, Judas and the uh, Black Messiah with David Oyel, with Daniel Cayuga, and I think he's on Euphoria. He may be on Euphoria now. He's doing something else, but he's a really really fine writer as well. Um, uh,
Hmm.
uh, Arsema Thomas, who plays young lady Bridgerton in Bridgerton, she is in the movie as well. Um, um, and so, yeah, there are a lot of really, really great young folks that are making waves, and that I just really love. I like to say, the game is in good hands. It's nice to see. Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah.
And I always ask guests this question: what is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
I think I did it. I told my younger self, "You're gonna be okay. Just be patient through all the stuff that happened through the months of living on the train in New York, because I needed to, keep working, and I had acting jobs, but I didn't have enough for a room or an apartment yet.
You
Um,
lived on the train.
yeah, a couple months.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I would say if you decide you're gonna do this, you gotta do this. I mean, I was in three different shows in New York, but I didn't have enough at that time. I hadn't built up enough money for a room, and I was married, young, divorced, and when that happened, things kind of fall apart, right? And yeah, but I told myself, you know, be patient, don't try to get it too early. And so I think I gave myself that advice, and I would say, oh, well, glad you listened to yourself. uh, uh, um, because the universe is always watching. The universe is always watching, and um, uh, you summon who you are. You summon eventually, and um, that's one of those things about being in that moment. I think studying Zen helped a lot with that, being in that moment and understanding why, but not getting even blocked into the why. If that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's what an incredible story too. That's
Yeah.
such adversity to have to face, and then now you're out here and you've done so many successful productions and you're still continuing to do so. And I think everything you said here is great today, and I'm really looking forward to uh, season 4 of The Bear and
Me too.
a pink and red dress. I would like to see this. This is kind of piqued
I'm
my
gonna send.
curiosity.
I'll send you the teaser right after we're done here, and you can
Excellent.
tell me what
That's
you think.
great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, wow. Edwin, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the show. And I want to
Thank you.
thank everybody that has tuned into the show. And as I mentioned at the top of the hour, I have a merchandising company called Hell's Heart Merch Co. Going over to hellsheartco.bigcartel.com. Use
Yeah,
the code 20 for 20% off your entire order. And their movie themed t-shirts. This isn't one of them. This is actually, we were talking about France
I love
earlier.
that.
This is a t-shirt, and I didn't get to
Yeah.
go. My mom went. She got it for me. I'm hoping to actually go one of these days. So,
Me too. Me too.
you
Yeah.
never went when you were in Paris.
No, no, no. I never went down to Cannes. I got Chateauroux up to Normandy, out to Troyes and Bordeaux, but never out to but never that far down to a Cannes. But I want to ask you, what does the T and F stand for?
Well, it was sort of an irreverent title before it was called Tea and Fuckery, and I don't know
Ah,
where the title came from, but I was getting flagged by the YouTube algorithm and I wasn't getting a lot of traction, so I changed it. So,
ah,
but it's kind of more indicative. I
love it.
I was kind of trying to do something a little bit more abrasive, and I'm definitely not that guy anymore. So with that, the name change came about, and I like it. I think it's a little bit more universal, and then it definitely doesn't come off as off-putting to some people that may want to be a guest on the show or may want to promote the show to somebody else. So that's what
Wouldn't
it
be
is.
off. Wouldn't be off putting to me. I've got the worst mouth in the world. So, here we go.
I,
But
I can
no,
relate. I can relate. Yeah,
no,
definitely.
almost a great time, Jay Curtis. Thanks for having me
Absolutely. Yeah.
on the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. It's been fun.
I appreciate you too, Edwin. And everybody, the season 4 of The Bear is going to be dropping June 25th
Hmm.
on Hulu. So be sure to check that out. And like I mentioned also at the top of the hour, if you're listening or you're watching, do me a favor, like, comment, share, subscribe, click on that bell for notifications. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, give us a follow and give us a rating. I would greatly appreciate that. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. And Edwin, if you don't mind hanging around for just a minute or two backstage, we can just do a quick post game.
Yeah.
That would be great. Everybody, namaste. God
Namaste.
bless. Be
Ashe.
good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Edwin. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Hell's Horn, lights again.